art form built through centuries of pain, joy, and triumph. The soundtrack to our ancestors' journey. We owe it to them. The culture was built on evolution. Everyone won't agree, and that's okay. We like it like that because it's our story, told our way. Jazzgroupiez.
I think we're already good to go, right?
Yeah, we already recorded, man.
Excellent. I'll tell you, Todd. You see, with Unfiltered, it's quite loose. I try to make it as fluid as possible. It's actually amazing the fact that we have this opportunity to chat to you. I mean, you in the United States of America. It's episode 27 this time, and I'm chilling with a good buddy. Actually, we've met through a very lovely lady who's always been a part of Unfiltered, and it's so amazing that she made it possible that I meet the gentleman that I'm talking to today. It's Todd Moultrie, a Renaissance artist who's in the jazz scene, mostly as a producer, as a recording artist, and a cultural taste maker. We know that in Texas, that is New Orleans, lots of artists that are already coming from that side. Ones that come to mind, your Robert Glasper's, King Curtis, and to name a few, Hep Ellis, those are the guys. Yeah. But absolutely amazing that we found this opportunity to have this chat as Unfiltered with us, Msomi, to talk to you, Todd, today. How are you doing, sir?
Man, I'm great, man. It's an honor to be here with you, brother. I appreciate you for inviting me on your platform.
Man, thank you so much. It's so honorable that you're able to honor that. And we're really looking forward to getting as much as we can from you and the stuff that you've been busy with. So, it's South Africa. That's where I'm sitting. And the weather this side, it's hot. It's 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. What's the time on your side?
It's 11 o'clock here. So it's 11 o'clock here in the morning. I'm from Texas, but I'm in the Midwest right now in Omaha, Nebraska is where I've been for the last 2 years. And it's a little windy. It's nice. It's fall time out here. So you got a little bit of sun, you get a little bit of wind, you get the fall colors, it's beautiful out here right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, at this present moment, what we're enjoying is the starting of summer. We're in spring, and we actually just welcoming summer. It's absolutely amazing. So we're going to jump straight into it. Your work is so vast, man. And I want us to categorize it and cut it down to the multiple pieces that it should be, so that we look at each profile that you cover. Like the fact that you're a producer, a recording artist, and this cultural taste maker. I want you to explain these terms to us. But we first and foremost going to look at your baby that you probably formulated in 2013. That's at least my research took me that far. I'm talking about Jazzgroupiez, which is an online hub where you I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. You're going over 28,000 likes on Instagram. That's absolutely amazing. And that just shows that the content that is put out there is absolutely amazing. And it's something that the world is enjoying. Now, Jazzgroupiez, what is that in your own words? If you can just give us that light.
So I think, Jazzgroupiez is a term that I use to appreciate all types of jazz. I think when I started in 2013, there were, jazz is not really a, thriving genre, right? As Robert Glasper likes to say. But, I thought there was also different levels to jazz. There was, this really traditional side of jazz, where you have to have a suit and a tie to get into a jazz club. And then there was also this underground, the 20-year-old, the generation that's coming up, generation, Z, where they may not have the history and understand, what Coltrane, how important Coltrane and Miles were, because, they're generations past that. And I thought there were a lot of underground jazz artists that were not getting the visibility that, you don't have, you have, Downbeat Magazine and Jazz Times, and these is for like the upper echelon. But you didn't have anything for like the underground jazz scene and those, probably for the next generation. So that was my goal, is to merge the two, to have a platform where you can be a traditional jazz fan, you can be a teenage jazz fan, a casual jazz fan, and everybody can come on one platform and not be divided.
Now, what's really nice is the fact that you sort of put the focus on underground artists that are upcoming, and you fuse them with artists that are already in the scene and really making it, which is one easy way for an upcoming to actually get their name noticed, because you have to, rub shoulders with the who's who. So the reason that you thought that would be the best strategy, and how has it actually been working out for the artists that have come under this umbrella?
Well, the reason I started it, this was about, now going on about 9 years. My dad had recently passed. He was a big jazz fan. He had introduced jazz to me when I was younger. But when I was younger, hip hop was the thing, hip hop and 90s R&B, so I grew up when, that was a big distraction away from jazz, when you're growing up with Tribe Called Quest and Biggie and Tupac and all the 90s R&B acts. So it took my attention away from jazz for a while. But when he passed away, it was my way to connect with him. I really got into jazz. At the time, I got relocated. My job relocated me to Omaha, and there wasn't much to do here. So I would just travel. I was single at the time. I didn't have any kids, wife or kids. So I would just travel. I went to my first Robert Glasper show, and I think it was 2011 or 12 in St. Louis. And it blew me away. And so every time I would just look on the calendar looking for Robert Glasper shows, I go fly to see him in Seattle. He didn't know me, I was just a fan. I was just flying to see Robert Glasper. I go to New York. I spend a week in New York, and I go to Smalls. I go to Blue Note. I go to Smoke Jazz Club. I go everywhere, anywhere to hear jazz.
But all the big names of the clubs that are well known in the jazz scene. Huh?
Yeah. And so I just kind of would binge. I would go to New York for, once or twice a year. I'd go spend 5 or 6 days there, and I would just all day, every day, just spend my time jazz, record stores, studios, whatever. And I wasn't producing at that time. I had stopped producing years prior because I had got burned out from, doing, I was working more in the hip hop and R&B side. So I got burned out with the business of it. I wasn't really paying the bills. So I just kind of, I stepped away. So it was a great time to be a fan of music and not be a producer, because a lot of times as a musician, you don't always get to appreciate music the same as when you're just sitting back as a casual fan. You're always thinking about the technical details,
Right. Just going back to the parts where you spoke about your father and his love for music and the fact that that ended up spilling over to you. It's the very same thing that I was exposed to growing up. I was also going crazy about Busta Rhymes and all kinds of crazy music that was of that time, which every person of my age was enjoying. But I really get the fact that my father would always go back to jazz. So even in my moment where I'm busy washing the car outside, not paying any attention, I find myself humming to the very same songs that are spinning in that vinyl. I actually have 1 or 2 of the albums that I got from my dad. Luckily, my father is still alive and he's well and kicking.
Wow.
We share music. So that's on vinyl. Oscar
man. What? that's nice. Hey, that's a classic, man.
Exactly. Just to tell you something amazing, my father ended up giving me the name Oscar as I'm Oscar Msomi, because this is his favorite artist right here. Wow. He's got so many albums. It's absolutely amazing. And I know that you've also mentioned in the bio that I was going over that Wilton is one of your homeboys right there.
Yes, from Houston. He's from Houston, Texas. I grew up in Beaumont, which is about an hour east of Houston. So, he started the group, the Crusaders, with Joe Sample.
So it's just amazing that we cross roads like that. But I just want to tell you, the world is so small, and if you're vibrating at a certain frequency, you always find a person who vibrates in the certain frequency as well. So it's absolutely amazing like that. Now, your dad had this passion for John Coltrane. That was his stuff, right? My dad listens to John Coltrane. When he blows that sax, you know that it's John. It's got that signature touch.
Right.
Scratch Crusaders. That's the album. Scratch the Crusaders.
Mm-hmm.
That's the to play the pivotal role in your growing up and you're falling in love with jazz, because when you hear your dad or see your dad reacting to the music, it moved you in a way that it's still stuck in your head even today.
Right. Yeah. So here's the album that my dad showed me. This is 8 copies of the album that my dad introduced me to jazz with. That's the Scratch the Crusaders. Yeah. So and so he would play that, when there was a holiday or anytime, it was an excuse to pull a record player out. He'd put that on and he'd start saying Scratch Daddy, because that was Scratching the Crusaders, so I have that memory all the time, and it always made me, it was a great feeling to know like the music can make someone feel that good. It takes you away from everything you're going through at the time, you know. So, and that's what, and my dad was also a gospel singer. He sang in choirs throughout the region. So, you know, he was a musician as well, as far as being singing and then really loving music and jazz. You know, my mom loved it too. My dad was just a fanatic, you know. And so, you know, it spilled over to me, and I wanted to produce. I think I was 11 years old when I told them I wanted to be a producer because, you know, at the time, everyone around me was trying to rap, and I was thinking, well, there's nobody making the beats for him. And so I was just like, okay, I have everyone on the block wants to be a rapper, but there's nobody that wants to make beats. And so at 11 years old, that's always what I wanted to do. I wanted to make beats. I wanted to be a producer, you know.
Yeah, and you jumped in.
Yeah, and then I jumped in. They got me a Casio keyboard, you know, and I wasn't serious at first. And then right out, you know, high school, you know, when teachers started asking you, what do you want to be? And, you know, I was like, I want to be a producer. And, you know, people didn't understand that at the time, and they still don't a lot, you know, especially being from a small town. They didn't understand that. You're like, you want to make beats. I mean, how much money are you going to make doing that, you know? So.
But you're wanting to play with the beats and obviously getting that keyboard to tap away and have the love of music. I guess that's just eventual, because at a certain point, you would also find yourself acquiring an Akai, a drum set, an electronic drum set. Yeah. And you fell in love with the drum set. You obviously put it aside at some point. I have no idea for what reason, but in 2017, you gravitated back to it because you were inspired by something. Tell us about that.
So, you know, now, you know, after spending about 4 years with, you know, building the Jazzgroupiez brand and really just traveling around and hanging around musicians, I started getting the itch to make music again. And when I started Jazzgroupiez, I wanted to do several things. You know, I wanted to do promotion and marketing for artists, but I also wanted to do like a docu-series. I wanted to do like, you know, jazz mixtapes, things of that nature. So really the idea started when I started putting together an idea for a jazz mixtape. And I was like, hey, you know, well, man, what if I get a drum machine and kind of sample, you know, jazz songs with current hip hop songs and just make it, you know, make it real cool and current and modern. And so through that, trying to do a mixtape, I ended up making beats. And that's how I ended up putting out Millennials, the first album. That was supposed to be a mixtape.
I'm just saying that the lovely thing about that Millennials album is that it was the first EP to be produced and released under Jazzgroupiez.
Right. Yeah, that was the first, and that was 4 songs, and that was really supposed to just be a mixtape. But I said, you know, I'm gonna just put this out as, you know, 4 beats. And just throw it out there. I really didn't plan on doing a lot of, you know, production, and what Jazzgroupiez has evolved to today, as far as me really putting out albums, that was never, ever the intention. That was never the intention.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So now it's like I've went from, you know, this marketing and promotion and kind of just a culture website to now I'm more of a full-fledged producer again, which I never intended to do.
On the Renaissance album, you sort of wore all the hats. You did the production, you played the instruments all the way to the end. And obviously after that, you would obviously release other 4 titles or EPs under the same streak. Yeah. And I don't, and so the thing about it is I don't play an instrument. I played the trumpet when I was in high school, but right now my only instrument is the MPC drum machine. What I do is I start the foundation of the track, and then I work with all these musicians that I've been traveling around seeing and spending time around. I get them to help me with the production. So, you know, Stephen Richard is, you know, one of the amazing saxophonists I work with from Houston. You know, I may make the drum beat and just, you know, maybe a simple pad or piano. Then he plays the sax on top of it. Then I find a bass player, then my bass player, you know, so I put it together with all these different musicians from around the world, you know? Man, I guess you sort of spread your wings like that, and collaborations, I guess, are always the key. That's how you put your best foot forward, because if you collaborate with a lot of people, that's your name going places right there. Now, in one of the movements that you would find yourselves growing over the years and coming closer to 2018s and stuff, there was a time that you would go to a listening party in Houston Blues, and I guess it's a club like that. There's something special that happened there when you went to that listening party. Please tell us more on that.
Yeah, that was when I saw Stephen Richard play, and that kind of that's what really sparked the idea for me to start making beats and reaching out to people like him to play on top of those beats. And I was really nervous about it because You know, these are in my eyes accomplished musicians, technical musicians. I am not a technical musician. I'm a beat maker. Right. So, you know, I'm a beat maker trying to get, you know, these really technical musicians. So I was afraid at first. And Steven agreed, you know, after I reached out to him, we developed a relationship, and he eventually agreed to get on a few tracks with me. And we have a long-standing 3-year, 4-year relationship now where I can't release an album without having Steven Richard on there, you know.
But, I mean, recognition is always given to people who do amazing work. Obviously, you would be recognized by a hot house jazz guide, Chicago Jazz Magazine, and the Times Square. You had that big, huge billboard that was just towering over people there. How did that?
You know, it's I tell a lot of, you know, independent artists, you know, it's really, these relationships are everything, man. And you know, I just, you know, I never really thought I was afraid to reach out and ask someone if something was available for me. You know, like you don't, if you don't reach out and stick your neck out, sometimes, you know, you're not going to get what you want, you know. So, you know, fortune favors the bold. So, you know, this relationship that I had with the billboard company, billboards, and they have Times Square billboards, Chicago, LA. I just reached out to them last year. You know, I saw, you know, maybe now that things are a little bit slower, maybe a billboard company would be more open to a musician having a billboard, because it's not something they traditionally do, you know. And I think musicians think that it's not affordable, and it was very affordable. And we developed a relationship now that's as solid as could be. I've you know been able to, through them, I've been able to put billboards in, you know, Chicago, LA, New York, Atlanta, you know, most of the pretty I guess you could say metropolitan cities in the US that have a jazz scene, you know. So
But this collaboration thing is also amazing because you've sort of touched into a lot of genres as well. I know that R&B is part of that. Jazz is obviously the basis because you have a rooted love for it. You also work with a number of people like Master P. That was a strange one when I came across that. I know Tino Martinez, you couldn't have really missed that one. Killa Killion, also an amazing collaboration. These artists, to source them and have them come close to you or recognize you, how do you do that?
Well, so the crazy thing about Master P was when I was only a producer when I was in college. I'm talking about 20 years ago. I didn't do any jazz. I just made hip hop beats. So the Master P production came from me shopping beats around. At the time, you know, producers would have a beat tape, they'd have a CD, and they give it to as many people as possible. And I gave a beat CD to somebody, and Master P ended up having it. And so him and Currency and a lot of the artists that were on his label, the 504 Boys, were able to put that on their album. And then the Killer Callion and the Big Pokey and some of those other collaborations, those came strictly after, you know, with Jazzgroupiez. Those were people that I reached out to and I said, hey, I'd love to work with you on this album. And I always wanted to merge the jazz, hip hop, R&B, and soul, because jazz birthed all these genres. You know, jazz gave birth to all these genres.
Exactly. It's still the foundation of everything. Everything sits on top of jazz. Man, it's just where it's at, right? Now, your contribution and wanting to work with a number of artists doesn't just stop where you come from, Texas, the United States, Europe, and such. You crossed borders and you've touched South Africa as well. I really want you to come down here. And we should have coffee one.
Hey, man, I'm coming. It's going to happen. I'm coming now that the pandemic is behind us.
Exactly. You need to. Now, in South Africa, you worked with Saul Madiope, lovely saxophonist there, very strong, talented. That experience, and how did you guys find it? How did you guys find each other?
Man, Saul is my guy, man. Saul is an amazing guy. Not just amazing musician, but amazing human. Now we met on IG, like all relationships in the 21st century happen, you know. So, you know, Saul reached out to me on IG, and he actually told me, he said, hey, I see that a lot of your music is on the charts here and on Apple Music. And I didn't know that at the time. So we started kind of talking about that and talking about doing a collaboration album last year. And we started talking in about March and October. We put out the Crossover 2 last year. And we didn't expect it to do what it did, but that's been both of our, you know, up until now, the most successful album project that we've done, you know. both of us, you know. So the crossover too was more of a U.S. and South Africa. I mean, the crossover was a U.S. and South Africa collab. But we've kind of, you know, it took off so much that Saul and I have developed this partnership where now we're going to do a crossover too. And we want it to be more than just U.S. and South Africa. We want it to be U.S., South Africa, and the globe. So we're bringing a lot of different sounds on the crossover too. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, the different collaborations that we've been able to get to sign up for the project. And the sound is going to be more of a global and a world music sound now.
You're doing amazing things, man. I mean, Todd, we really appreciate the fact that you put so much work. And obviously, here in South Africa, you also have a soft heart, or at least a soft spot, rather, for Cape Town, Johannesburg. I believe that it's one of those cities that you'd love to come and visit.
Yeah, so Saul and I talked, and you know, at some point, I'd say in the next 6 months, you know, I'm planning to come out there. We want to put together some shows, more meet and greets, not so much shows. I want to come out there and really do meet and greet and just, you know, get to know everyone. South Africa is my biggest supporter as far as the countries that stream my music the most. So, you know, I've just fallen in love with everyone there and the country itself. I haven't been, but it's like, it's amazing that I love this country and the people so much, and I haven't been. So we want to make that, happen in the next 6 months. I want to come to Johannesburg. I want to go to Pretoria. I want to go to Cape Town. I want to go to Durban. You know, as many spots as I can.
Obviously, when you come down to Durban, I'm right here in Durban, so make sure that you come in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Zama of Itheku Connect is also going to be there. She'd definitely love to be part of it.
Yeah, we can get that cup of coffee, man.
And as we probably drawing closer to the end, I know that you've given us as much as possible, but obviously we'll never have enough time to cover everything. You sort of found yourself also tapping into HBO. We know how huge that is. There's something that is cooking in that spectrum. Tell us about that, really.
So through the crossover album, you know, Saul and I, we released a song called Foundation that was on the crossover with Tando J. And we, you know, Apple Music, we've had some great relationships with the people at Apple Music South Africa. They've been great to us. And so by them adding us to so many of the playlists, we were able to catch the attention of a music supervisor on one of the Apple Music playlists. And he reached out to Saul and I in January this year. We thought it was a joke. You know, as a guy, he emailed me and he said, hey, I want to use, you know, the foundation in an HBO series. And I sent it to Saul. I said, hey, man, I think this is spam. You know, like this guy's spamming us. So we checked his credential. You know, I kind of did some cross-checking on LinkedIn, and, you know, turned out the guy was legit. You know, we responded and we started negotiating back and forth. And in May of 2021, we were on the episode 4 of In Treatment. I think it was season 2, episode 4 of In Treatment, Oscar-nominated, Oscar-winning show, you know. So it was an amazing success story for me and Saul. And that kind of solidified our relationship to where, you know, we're like, okay, I think we got something here with this crossover brand and the crossover sound that we're trying to accomplish.
The lovely thing is that magic is always going to happen where it's supposed to happen. You really can't stop it. It's a natural process. It unfolds itself. And that is why you also find yourself tapping into the right people and always making these connections. Trust me, as Unfiltered will be right here in South Africa, KZN, waiting to make that connection. Once you touch down to either Cape Town, Johannesburg, wherever you'll be, we'll make sure that we have that connection because we love to do it like that. Now, we're really drawn to an end, and I really want for people to have a way to connect and obviously grow the network of your platform as well. Tell us, how can we get through to Jazzgroupiez, and how do we find you?
You know, I'm probably most active on Instagram. Everything is at Jazzgroupiez with a Z at the end. Instagram, Twitter is probably my next active platform. Not so much on Facebook yet. I do have a Facebook page, but it's kind of dormant, like we were discussing. And you can always reach out to me, man. Email jazzgroupiez@gmail.com. If you know, people have reached out to me to say happy birthday to their friend or things like that, I'm always available, man. I'm always open to chat, and you know, I just want to keep those relationships and make sure that we're connecting on a human level. I'm not just, you know, some musician that you can't touch and you can't reach. You know, I'm here.
No, man, let's definitely get it. Let's definitely get it. As Unfiltered, we just want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for being part of the experience. It is Todd Moultrie, all the way in Houston, Texas, and he's connected to the Unfiltered with Msomi podcast. do subscribe and make sure that you follow. Also, the Jazzgroupiez, it's there on all the social media links. Just make sure that you look for them. You'll definitely find them. They have the most beautiful stuff that you'll definitely be interested in. It is Msomi signing out. Todd, thank you so much for being part of the experience, man. We'll have this running through. And obviously, for people that would like to ask any questions, do leave it down here on the comment section. You know, that's exactly where the magic happens. And if there's any questions, Todd himself will be able to respond to that. The page is Unfiltered with Msomi on YouTube and, of course, on all audio podcasts and such. My man, signing out. Thank you so much again, right?
Thank you, Oscar, man. Peace.
Keep it on, bro.
All right.
And cut.
All right, there we go, man. That was amazing, brother. You did great, man. You did great. The flow, man. I do a lot of these podcast interviews, man, and your flow is just perfect, so I love it. I love it.
Oh, man, I'm honored. Thank you so much again, Todd.
I know how them Sundays are. Slab City boys pulling out they Sunday car. Make a stop at the store, homie, grab some gauze. What I got in this is egg, but the hay on Mars is hot outside. The mama's all over.